Why jokes are one of the hardest things to understand in another language. It's tempting to say because you don't know enough vocabulary. But humor is not just a vocabulary test. Hi, I'm Polly, I'm a language coach, and I explain how language learning actually works. I recently read a study that looked at how much attention verbal humor uses. The participants were native Chinese speakers, and they processed Chinese jokes, positive non-humorous sentences, and neutral sentences. After each sentence, they had to solve an arithmetic problem. The researchers wanted to know whether humor leaves fewer attentional resources available for the next task, and whether that cost comes mainly from the positive emotion of amusement or from the mental work required to understand the joke. The study is based on a three-stage model of verbal humor. First, you detect that the punchline does not fit the interpretation you were building. Then you try to resolve that mismatch. You search for another meaning, another frame, or another interpretation that makes the setup and punchline work together. Only after that do you get the emotional reward, amusement. So before a joke feels funny, your brain has to solve a small problem. In the experiment, participants were slower on the arithmetic task after humorous sentences than after positive or neutral ones. Their brain activity also showed that more resources had to be allocated to the calculation after humor. The jokes themselves produced different neural responses linked to detecting the mismatch, resolving it, and then experiencing amusement. The authors therefore argue that humor uses more attentional resources than non-humorous language. Positive emotion contributed too, but the larger cost seemed to come mainly from the cognitive work of understanding why the joke made sense. And this helps explain something language learners often experience. You can understand every individual word in a joke and still not get it, because you also need to notice the unexpected meaning, abandon your first interpretation, and build a new one quickly enough for the joke to work. In another language that may be even harder because vocabulary access is slower, cultural knowledge may be weaker, and ambiguity is more difficult to detect. But that last part is an interference. This study did not compare native and foreign language humor. It showed that even in your strongest language, getting a joke is cognitively demanding. So if humor feels like one of the last things to become easy in another language, that doesn't necessarily mean your level is bad. It may mean that humor asks your brain to do much more than simply understand the words. Follow if you want to understand not only what makes language difficult, but what your brain is doing underneath.